Hello, mic testing one, two, three. Okay, dropping the link on Twitter. Let's see who turns up. Walaikum assalam, Aina. Welcome to the stream. Walaikum assalam, Cinnamon. How are you? कैसे हो आप सब? So, कैसा आपका दिन? रोज़े कैसे जा रहे हैं? इस वक्त बड़ा मुश्किल होता है स्ट्रीम करना. खुद पे जबर करना पड़ता है. Really. So, we have almost 992 subscribers, perhaps. So, I guess, 992 subscribers. We need another 8 to complete 1K. So, I had just discussed this thing with my fellows के Zoom meeting में कौन कौन आएगा तो turns up like Izzo, Cinnamon, Yakta वगैरह. Let us see who turns up. करते हैं celebrate 1K को. We'll celebrate 1000 subscribers Zoom meeting में. और फिर उसको देखते हैं उसको मैं कैसे मैनेज करता हूँ लाइव स्ट्रीम पे लाने के लिए. आई ट्राई दैट थिंग. हेलो सोनी फारूक, हाउ आर यू? सो शैल वी कंटिन्यू गुजरात फाइल्स? बता दीजिए. वी हैव ऑलरेडी कंप्लीटेड 63% ऑफ द बुक. ठीक है. आई जस्ट शेयर द लिंक. थोड़ा वेट करते हैं, अगर कोई इंटरेस्टेड होगा तो. लेट अस सी. Of all the gifts that I received in my life, this one is the best, perhaps one of the best. My friend had gifted it to me. ये वो perhaps you people might be aware of it. ये ना Kindle होते हैं जो जिसमें वो PDF इंक sort of a thing आ जाती है जो आइज को हार्म नहीं करती. आप सब लोग शायद जानते होंगे. तो इसमें मैंने बहुत सारी बुक्स रीड की हैं. वैसे भी बुक्स बहुत सारी रीड की, लेकिन इस तरह मैंने मतलब एक चीज़ इसी में सारी बुक्स वगैरह वो सब ऐसा कोई था नहीं इससे पहले. टैब वैब वगैरह उनसे तो आंखें बड़ी दर्द करती हैं, या फ़ोन या लैपटॉप. कितनी देर तक टिकते हैं लैपटॉप पे. इस पे तो इट्स लाइक इट्स अ इट्स अ नाइस इनोवेशन. मैं कहूँगा इट्स बिट बोरिंग बट क्वाइट यूजफुल. बोरिंग उनके लिए जिनको मल्टीमीडिया पसंद है वो सब कुछ. तो यूजफुल उनके लिए जिनको किताबें पसंद है. ये गुजरात फाइल्स इनफैक्ट मैंने इसी से पढ़ी. किंडल से ही। आई गेस इट्स नोन एज ई रीडर, कुछ ऐसे ही कहते हैं इसको। तो पहले पहले बड़ा महंगा पड़ता था ये। यस, आई एम लकी टू हैव फ्रेंड्स like the one who had gifted me this, and also he gifted my physical health. तो दोस्त भी तो ऐसे होने चाहिए जो गिफ्ट करें ऐसी कुछ चीजें। और यकीन माने मैंने उनको आज तक कोई कोई चीज गिफ्ट नहीं की, ऐसी मोहब्बत है उनको मुझसे। चलिए ये भी सही, शुरू करें। 6 मिनट हो गया, मैं शुरू करने जा रहा हूँ, देखते हैं कितना पोर्शन है इसमें कंप्लीट हो जाएगा। द मोमेंट आई फील लाइक इट्स गेटिंग बोरिंग एंड ऑल, तो मैं शुरू स्टॉप करके फिर हम इंशाल्लाह रूमी पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है ना, या कुछ और अकॉर्डिंगली। चैप्टर 8, पीसी पांडे। Many in the force called him an ostrich, while some described him as the most chivalrous, well behaved officer who was articulate and saw, a man whom the CM trusted most, and who had Modi's ear and Shah's on all pertinent matters in the state. He was a man whom loved the good things in life, foreign vacations, glowing reviews about himself, and evenings at the club or the gymkhana over drinks with friends. The Telegraph newspaper, dated 2nd March 2002, wrote the following description about him. Former Commissioner of Police Ahmedabad, Shri P.C. Pandey. He was Commissioner of Police when the carnage took place. Nothing illustrates police role better than police commissioner. Pandey's statement that police were not insulated from the general social milieu. When there's a change in the perception of the society, the police are part of it. And there's bound to be some contagion effect. I had made Mike call Pandey and then followed it up by calling him myself to check the schedule. I could hear that he was impressed. When we entered his bungalow in Ahmedabad, he was taking his wheelchair bound mother for a round in the garden. Namaste, I said to him and his mother. Mike was introduced as the assistant, and we were ushered inside. The wife, who we were told was undergoing treatment for cancer, entered the living room to introduce herself. There were piles of newspapers and magazines, a copy of India Today and other Gujarati newspapers lying on the coffee table. The first thing he asked me about my second name, Tyagi. I told him about my RSS roots, about my father as Sanskrit teacher, and my American credentials. That I was a Kayasth who had family in Mumbai and Kanpur, who was far removed from religion. But I reassured him that the atmosphere of appeasement of Muslims in the country was bringing me closer to my religion. It had the desired effect, but Pandey was a shrewd man. He was curious if anybody had told us about his alleged dubious image in the media before meeting him. He was playing his cards well. I had not worn any of my equipment that day. I exclaimed that I had heard only good things about him from filmmaker Naresh Kanodia, who was our only point of reference in Gujarat. Oh, now I get it, he exclaimed. Else you would have also come up with a prejudiced mind like the Al Jazeera and other yellow journalists of this country. I told him I wanted to meet diamond traders from Surat who were well known across the world. I had done my homework. Pandey's son ran a diamond business in Surat and he eagerly gave me his contact details. I also asked Pandey to help me with somebody who was handling the film divisions or publicity division of Vibrant Gujarat, about which we heard such terrific things. I need to know about Kutch, sir. The white sand and the new highway and the state of the art technology that makes Gujarat stand out as one of the most vibrant states of India. Also, something about its culture. Despite Pandey's provocation about his controversial image during the riots, I reacted as if it held no interest for me. I was given the number of a gentleman called Thirupzag, Thirup, Thirupugza, a South Indian bureaucrat who would give us all the relevant material on Gujarat, especially the vibrant Gujarat campaign. And meatly, he exclaimed, "You must also read this column by one of the most venerable intellectuals called Suhail Seth in a newspaper." He had prepared himself well. There were ready printouts of all articles that lauded Modi, along with a copy of an India Today issue which had Maulana Vastanvi of Deoband praising Modi, a statement which he said later was misquoted. Pandey had at least 12 copies of the Swell Set column, one of which he handed over to me. Pandey added, "And if the film is for the Gujaratis in America, I'm sure Modiji will be happy to speak to you. Let me know and I'll fix the meeting." I showed little enthusiasm and said I would meet anyone Pandey wanted me to because he came across as one of the most well versed men in Gujarat and I would need his guidance on how to make the film. Pandey seemed pleased with this. We were not dealing with foot soldiers, I told Mike as we were eating our 20 rupee lunch at the canteen later. I handed over the fried papad in my plate to Mike, who relished it. I told him that my colleague at Tehelka had in the past done a sting operation in Gujarat, but with thugs and rioters. Here we were dealing with seasoned diplomats. One needed to be extremely confident and convinced of the premise one had set. Mike suggested we write a film script. Once we were done with the sting, we laughed. While meeting PC Pandey, we also continued our virgins with Raigad, Ashok Narayan, Maya Kodnani, and all of them were told about our meetings with the others. I had a narrow escape one day. When I was on my way to PC Pandey's bungalow for a meeting, just as I was approaching his house, I spotted an orderly of an official who knew me as Rana Ayub stepping out of the bungalow just 3 houses away. Luckily, my curly hair, which is usually a dead giveaway, was neatly tied and my bandana covered almost half my face. Pandey was at the gate to receive me. Beads of sweets emerged at my hairline and trickled down my cheek. My body temperature had gone up. Pandey noticed that I was sweating and the color of my face had changed. "Are you okay, Matley?" he asked, escorting me into his bungalow. "Yes, sir," I replied, yet to cover from the fact that my cover might almost have been busted by a minute ago. I mumbled that the change in weather might have given me a fever. He immediately made me sit down, got his help to make me a cup of coffee, and went inside his room to get the medical kit. He took out his thermometer and asked me to place it below my tongue. I was shaking. He suggested I accompany him to the doctor. I resisted, saying it was normal. The thermometer beeped at 99. He forced me to eat a biscuit, followed by a coffee and a paracetamol. I was feeling better. I smiled and inquired about Mrs. Pandey, who arrived minutes later. "Walaikum assalam, Auntie David. How are you?" He was planning a trip to Nepal with his relatives or through a telephone conversation with his brother indicated. I calculated in my head that it meant little time for me to get my act in place. He was planning to visit Kathmandu during his year-end break and suggested some hip places for me in the country to go to visit on New Year's Eve. I nodded in acknowledgement. मैं भी ठीक हूँ. During one of our conversations while discussing Hindu Muslim polarization in Gujarat, Pandey told me that one of his lawyers and friends who dropped in frequently at his place was a Muslim. From that day on, every time I sat at Pandey's residence, I would have palpitations as I was acquainted with the lawyer from Ahmedabad whom I had met in relation to various criminal cases he was dealing with. As my nerves played havoc, the conversations with PC Pandey flowed smoothly in the months that followed. Question: how integral is Gujarat to the RSS? Answer: you see, it's the backbone of the BJP of the Gujarat government. It is the only organization that could counter the Islamic parties. Question: and how close is he to the RSS? Answer: oh, yes. He is very close to the RSS. It's very key to him. He was a cadre. The RSS chief here, Amrutbhai Kadiwala, wields a lot of power over him. Question: I hear a lot of rumblings about your ministers here, whether it concerns riots or the states of affair. The RSS here was very fond of Hardan Pandey. Yes, he was a very popular leader here. The Home Minister Hardan Pandey, he was very close to the RSS. For that matter, we had Amit Shah here, who is now behind bars. He was very close to the RSS. Another leader called Gordon Zarafia here. He was very close to the VHP in between. Question: and all were home ministers. Is it conscious decision to have them? Answer: yes, because the home department controls the police officers. So it's good to have your own men. So when Keshubai was the CM, Heron Pandey was the home minister. Question: I should not meet Gordon Zadafia, you suggest. Answer: no, I don't think you should meet him because then you will deviate. I mean, it's not a part of your film. Question: Acha, so if I am in Delhi, you are suggesting I meet Amit Shah? Answer: yes, you should. He's an analog. Question: why do you suggest I meet him? Answer: you will get a different perspective of the state. He is very focused. He will tell you about the RSS and the state. Question: can I give him reference? Your reference. Where does he stay? Answer: yes, tell him that I asked him. He stays at Gujarat Bhavan. Question: should I speak to Modi ji about the riots? Answer: don't. He won't talk. It's like Achilles' heels. Yes, do not. So, you were there during the riots? Answer: yes. It was one of the most horrific times of my life. Of my life. I had already seen 30 years of service. But look at this. There were riots in 85, 87, 89, 92, and most of the times the Hindus got a beating. And the Muslims got an upper hand. So this time in 2002, it had to happen. It was a retaliation of the Hindus. Also, post 1995, people felt that the government was theirs, especially because it was a BJP government. They said, they say I did not reach people. Not a single person called me. I'm not a clear clairvoyant to figure who is calling me. So Modi is the poster boy. Answer: you know Malika Sarabhai? That dancer, she's a big Modi basher. They say the riots of 2002 are because of him. He says, I didn't go and burn the train at Godra. So if I didn't do that, how can you blame me for whatever took place after that? If that had been me done by me, this was also done by me. See, this was a reaction to what happened there. I mean, if you see it logically, here's a group of Muslims going and setting fire on a train. So what will be your reaction? Question: you hit them back. Yes, yes, you hit them back. Now, this hitting back, you must have already done research that they got a beating in 85, 86, 92, and so on. What happens here is the chance, give it back to them. Why should anybody mind it? Question. And I am sure he would not have stopped it. Answer. See, once people get this passionate about it, you can't stop them like in Egypt. So you tell me, would you want to open fire on a population like this? What if he does? Will that fellow be allowed to walk the streets again? Now, this kind of scenario, how do you say Modi should have put off the switch? The remote was not in his hands. Question: how long did the riots long last? Answer: then initial phase lasted for about 2 days and not more than that. Question: so Hindus were targeting Muslims? Was what the media projected? Answer: yes. What else would they show? Muslims were targeting the Hindus also. You see correspondingly okay, if not in as much percentage, but here we are not matching evenness or making it evenly balanced. But then Muslims were the aggressors in the first place with the train burning at Godhra. So naturally the reaction would be there. Muslims receive larger damage, but they also give back. So if a Hindu comes in the way, he also gets killed. So this you ask him, he will speak out. By the way, I saw a write up in the newspaper the day before on the SIT report. Oh yes, there was an SIT committee that was formed to look into the riot so that was for that. The report was submitted in the Supreme Court, and a copy of that was leaked to the media, this newspaper. Otherwise, it was confidential. Otherwise, the report does not blame him for anything. But the person who has written the report says that he didn't find anything to pin him down. Question. And didn't they try to pin you down too? Answer. Oh yes. They said officers who worked for him were given postings post retirement. I say what posting? Mine is a posting which does not give me money. Question. But again, if you are working for the state, why shouldn't he award you? Then should it be given to people who went against him? Answer. Yes. Why should he give postings to people who went against him? Question. Of course not. No question. No question. He's not a saint. That's what. You go on the road, ask people to go across the Parimal garden. Yes, they love him. I guess also because he gave them what they wanted. He epitomizes what they want. Most of the people said that there was no minority appeasement and their Gaurav was back. Yes, this is the feedback which is unsolicited. Question. So Muslims hate him. Answer. Those who are hard boiled, but they are seeing what they are seeing in the media, like you see that Deoband chief Vastanvi. It's there in India today. Vastanvi says that Gujarat gives equal opportunity. So this was objected to because they thought he's giving Modi a certificate for what he did in 2002. I was sitting at Mukul Sinha's palace and I met some Al Jazeera channel reporters sitting there. Oh, yes. So the Muslim Journal people would have come to cover the Godra verdict. So they will talk some shit. Question. So he basically gave me a copy of some periodical that comes out which had carried a report on the set. Answer. Acha. It must have been that communalism combat. Question. No, no. Let me tell you. It was Tahelka. Answer. Oh, that's a classical example of yellow journalism. You know that the Tahelka people do? They go about carrying cameras so they shoot you. They will show one person giving money to the other. They will enact it and they will say, now you don't hear the conversation and this will be shown. Question. How do they show it? Answer. They sell it to channels. Earlier they showed some minister exchanging money with an arms dealer. So bits and pieces will be there but not the entire footage. For 2002, some of these extra garrulous people, they would show them. This is how they earn money. They will sell footage to news channels. Like that Sinha, why does he have to give interview to Al Jazeera? The channel kept on showing how women were being raped and burnt. And why? Because it gives more mileage. Question. You must have been grilled by the commissions. Answer. Yes, I still am. Question. So it's not coming to an end. You must have been questioned. Answer. Yes, I have been questioned. It's going on because with this stick you can beat Narendra Modi. For them, 2002 is a full time occupation. It reaps the money. Question. I really wanted to know. I mean, you were there as the police commissioner. How did you deal with it? Answer. It was terrible. I mean, not that I had not seen a situation like this earlier, but this was different. And like what happened in Egypt, now you can't use force on people in Egypt, right? So how does one use force on a crowd like that, which was out protesting there? Would he have been able to exist after that? Force is not the answer. Question. So did that Godra lead to Gujarat? Answer. Yes. A train was coming from Ayodhya. It had supporters of VHP. Basically, VHP people, they wanted a temple at Ayodhya. They were returning and there were 73 people, but some Muslim men attacked them. Locals came with petrol cans, entered the compartment and set it on fire. As a result, 61 people died. In retaliation, VHP gave a call for ban. Then on the 28th, violence erupted and everybody was out on the roads, old, young people, girls. So what's the accusation against him? Answer. Their view is that he organized everybody to come out. 27th, he goes to Godra. Uh, that he orchestrated the violence against Muslims. Question. Also, the acquisition is that he went to Godra and did not even bother to visit the riot victims. Why would he do that? Meet them. Yeah, the Hindus were being killed, and he came back at 10 or 11 p.m. Question. Their view is that he asked them to not act. Answer. Yes. So they asked me that during the commission, and I said I was given no such instruction. I said I had not received any instruction from him. And I did. In spite of that, people get killed. Now I cannot say that I can protect everybody. I am not God. And I said I tried to do my best. Question. So is this the only thing? Answer. No, they have only this thing against me because this is the only way they can reach Narendra Modi, and that is through me. Question. And also because you are very close to him. Answer. Supposing I say anything against him, then they would be happy. Question. So you must have been made a lot of enemies, including in the force. Answer. There could be a couple of IPS officers. Question. Like I was told, the handful of ones who were doing a good job here. Answer. Yes. Rahul Sharma, Satish Verma, Kuldeep Sharma, they are the ones. Question. Yes, yes. That Kuldeep Sharma, he has been sent to sheep and wool department. He is on the wrong side of the government now and right side of the people like Mukul Sinha. You see, it's a long story. You have to know the entire thing. Kuldeep Sharma picked up cudgels with the Home Minister. And who was that? Answer. Amit Shah. Question. The same person who was arrested, Kuldeep Sharma, complained to the CM that your HM, Home Minister, is a scoundrel. So the CM must have asked him to prove it. Question. But how will he act against the HM? Answer. And listen that then he has the cheek to write a letter to the CM so as to get a CBI inquiry into that matter against HM. But the CM said, I will get this inquired by a retired chief secretary. Question. So he must have been happy when Shah was arrested. Answer. He was instrumental in getting him arrested. Question. But how? Answer. He was the one who gave the evidence to the CBI as well as the media. So he proved the court records of an officer called Pandian. How? Pandian and Kuldeep had some other cases against each other. Pandian exposed one case in the newspaper, so he, Kuldeep, wanted to send Pandian to jail, and Pandian was indeed involved in the encounter. Question. Oh, that's how he got the HM. Yes, because Pandian was close to the HM. He would speak to him, therefore, he proved that Shah was involved in the encounter. Question. So, who are the people those encounters were done? Answer. All of them are scoundrels, petty criminals. When the law can't do much, you eliminate them. Question. I even heard some woman, lady, who was encountered calling her a terrorist. Answer. Yes, yes. So, what I was saying is that I was a DG, Director General, and I was retiring from the force. By that time, he also came from abroad. So he wanted to be the DG of the police. But the point was, how do you appoint him? A man who would always be up to some mischief against the government. Question. Yes. And he had and he had gone against the government. So how could they? Answer. Yes. You don't expect them to appoint a man like Kuldeep Sharma. So he was given a side posting. Like what? He was made the chairman of the sheep and wool departments. Laughs. Oh, that's like a punishment posting. Answer. It was. It was meant to be a punishment posting. If you go against the government, then I mean otherwise he was the most qualified person to be DGP. He also did a PhD in policing and reforms, but he just wanted to take revenge. So from there it began. The CM always said that he was very unreliable. In fact, he was very good with the HM. Question. But the HM is quite a character. Answer. But I would advise you to meet him. He's on bail, but the condition is he can't go to Gujarat. So I would advise you to meet him. He's a brilliant guy, very sharp, lot of interesting things. Question. A man of ideology? Answer. Yes, he is core RSS. Question. Why is all this happening? Answer. But the likes of Teestas and Sinhas will like this. See, whatever say the 80% Janta is of the majority, the Hindus. So you have to look after them, like the Congress does. And why do you have to pander to the illegal doings of the Muslims? Muslims, however much they do wrong, you want to support them. Hindus, however much they do right, you go against them. Question. But the Hindus would have felt so liberated. Answer. Yes, yes. Now go take a walk in the city and you see in the city, in the Hindu and the Muslim dominated areas, we had to sift through so many court records. That's how the IM guys were caught. Gujarat blast. Question. Wow. Answer. And the Supreme Court says don't conduct their cases. Why? Minority appeasement. That happens in the Supreme Court too. Yes, it does. These people should be put up against the wall and shot at. You know, one explosion takes place, six people die, and then another, then third takes place at the hospital, then the trauma center, and that's where the patients come. So I rang the CM and said, "Don't go." He had reached the commissioner's office by then. The bomb was kept in a van. You see the deviousness of the things. Now you want to appease them? What for? Votes? My best friend is a Muslim, but that's a different thing. That's just a person. Treat them like everybody. I have no problem. Question. I'm glad Muslims were taught a lesson during the riots. Answer. Yes, you feel that at one point of time कि जो हुआ ठीक हुआ. Which is why I am so happy that I could get these people behind bars, Muslims. It was the most satisfying thing. So people like Mukul Sinha and Tista will say there is anarchy. Yes, there is anarchy, but who created that anarchy? These very Muslims. And not that I have any great love for political parties, but if the Congress is like this, I might as well be with BJP. Question. How do you feel about encounters? Answer. See, personally, I'm against encounters. It's like a murder, but at times it becomes necessary. Question. Yeah, so this officer that I spoke to, he was telling me about this encounter. Answer. Acha. That's when my name must have come up. I was the DG, but not during the encounter. The encounter took place in 2005. I was asked to investigate it. Oh, okay. The person Sorabuddin was being convicted on the charge of holding some AK-47. There was the recovery, and later he was convicted. That was his background. The female Kosabi was not even his wife. The battery has run out of the juice. I have to charge it. Just wait a second. I have to plug in the charger. Here is it. पहले चेक करते हैं. Okay, it's charging. चलिए कंटिन्यू करते हैं. That person, Sohrabuddin, was being convicted on charge of holding some EK. There was a recovery, and later he was convicted. That was his background. That female Kosabi was not even his wife. Question. They had an affair. Answer. She was living in with him. So if you stay in the company of a man of that nature, something that happens to him will also happen to you, inviting trouble. And it's not that you're not aware of what this man is all about. Not this. This is reason for any man to be killed. Question. But sir, did they do it for money or for ideology? For the Hindu ideology? Answer. Both. Ideology as well as the money part. Question. Which is what I have been told that corruption was a major reason for the encounter. Money was. Which is why both the Home Minister and the officers were caught. Oh, yes, most of the time money goes into it. Question. Many were saying that the CM was almost involved because of this HM? Answer. See, the people who wanted the case to be investigated were people who were not the HM. The target was the CM. Question. But the truth is that the HM indeed was involved, hence. Answer. See, technically, by that benchmark, you can't involve the CM. Question. Give me some dope on the Singhal guy who heads the ATS. I am profiling him as a Dalit. Singhal, otherwise good officer. He's from Rajasthan, settled in Gujarat, but he also was there in the Sohrabuddin encounter. They picked him also. He barely escaped, and then he was in the Ishrat encounter. Question. That's like the dent in the image of the government. Answer. Yes, it is. क्या कर सकते हैं? Question. All those officers who were there in 2002, did their image suffer in dent even against Gujaratis? Answer. Even Gujaratis felt that some officers could have done better. They did not stand up. They did not acquit themselves. I was treated as a neutral officer. But you are being persecuted. No, but Gujaratis are not persecuting me. The NGOs are. See, one, the bodies were brought into Ahmedabad and kept at the civil hospital. And after that, there was some tension in the area. Information was trickling in that there was some cases coming in from here and there. My only regret is that I could myself go to these two places where the violence had erupted because I am sure otherwise I could have not allowed it to happen at Naroda and Megha, Meghani Nagar. At one place, then there is an ex parliamentarian who decides to take 10,000 people from the rooftop of his society, picks up his 12 bore gun and fires at the cover. Question. Who is this person? Answer. Ahsan Jafri. An old man around 75 years old. He was formerly a member of the Rajya Sabha. Now he opened fire. That firing results in two people dying, and this is a part of police records. The aggression came from the thought, what do I do? I am in strength of 10,000. You are in strength of 100. I won't do that. Question. Why would I spare you then? Exactly. You can say police ने कुछ नहीं किया. Now we didn't tell you to open fire. You could have kept quiet. This is the thing. Same thing happened at Naroda. There also one over enthusiastic Hindu boy climbed on a mosque. Now Muslims they chopped him into pieces. Hindus were agitated and that led to riots. Question. I was asked to meet a social activist called Tista. Answer. The biggest scoundrel ever. Take the number of this guy Uday Mahurkar. He is a journalist with India Today. Question. And another lawyer called Sinha. Answer. Another scoundrel. He's fighting in the Nanavati Commission, and he gets money in loads from all those people abroad. And then there is this woman called Tista Setalvad, who belonged to the Setalvad family, and there is this guy called Javed Anand, who was a sub-editor then. At that time, Javed was married, so she got to know them. Now her father did not like this. Javed disowned his earlier wife and moved in with her, and from there with Tista had no standing, but post 2002 she landed in Gujarat and promptly took up the case of the citizens in Gujarat because she was from a legal family. She got together retired judges and they also later came with a book called Communalism, and she started supporting the victims and money started coming in from the Middle East, and everybody thought that BJP will lose. But although the BJP won in Gujarat, it lost power at the center and hence she became the poster girl for the center. Question. Could you not do anything to stop her? Answer. How could we? We wanted to, but the courts would have pounced on us. Question. So the CM would have confided you his worry regarding her. Yes, he did. Question. But see, Modi was made Modi by the riots, right? Answer. Yes. Before who knew him? Who was Modi? He came from Delhi, before that Himachal. He was in charge of the unimportant states, neither Haryana nor Himachal. This was like a trump card, no? That's what. If this had not happened, he would not have been known internationally. That gave such a push. Although negative, at least he became no question. So, are you like his man? Answer: I mean, yes, considering I was there with him during the 2002 riots. So it's okay. These conversations have been recorded over a span of 2 months of meetings and conversations with various equipments. Pandey, who considers himself a favorite of the Modi, does not shy away from talking about his proximity to Modi. He was no qualms. He has no qualms telling me that Modi is no saint to give postings to those who are ideologically opposed to him. He justifies the murder of Khosrubai, saying that she was living in with Musarabuddin, who was killed in a fake encounter as already proved by the CBI. At various points in the conversation, every time there is a reference to activists, he does not shy away from describing them as scoundrels who have brought Gujarat as a bad name. Towards the end, I was not very astonished when he said that I should now go for a walk in Parimal Garden and see how Gujaratis feel liberated after the riots. Pandey offered to make me meet his son in Surat, who was a diamond trader on his return from Nepal. He also helped fix a meeting with Amit Shah in Delhi, who, after getting bail in the fake encounters case, was barred from entering Gujarat by the court. He also spoke to Thiru and asked him to help me with all the promotional narratives on Gujarat and the work done by the CM in getting investment to the state into the state. Pandey was being probed by various commissions and he was accused by the CBI in the fake encounter cases. Ahsan Jafri's wife had petitioned the Supreme Court for his inaction in saving her husband and other Muslims, but he was not bothered. As he told me nonchalantly, he won't be touched. By the time my conversations with Pandey were coming to an end, my anxiety attacks had increased considerably. I wanted to leave the city for a while. This became possible when I planned to interview Chakravarti, the DG of Gujarat, who during the riots, next as he was the resident of Mumbai. Chakravarti stayed in the cosmopolitan Khar area of Mumbai. Pani wanted to travel to Mumbai with me, and since Mike had to travel to Delhi again, so I needed an assistant, Pani. I took next flight out to Mumbai. She carried with her a sari that was gifted to her by a colleague at office because one of my closest friends was getting married and I had invited Pani to the wedding celebrations. I promised Pani a glimpse of Indian culture once work was done. आई थिंक इतना काफ़ी है. एक चैप्टर हमने कर लिया इसका. वो 70 कुछ 74% कुछ ऐसा हो गया कंप्लीट. अब कुछ ही बचा है इसमें, वो भी कर लेंगे. हाँ, कहाँ गए आप सब लोग? सो गए क्या? आई गेस यू हैव फॉलन asleep. हाँ, रूमी पढ़ेंगे, शौक से पढ़ेंगे. रूमी 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 रूमी. वेयर इज रूमी? ऐसे ठीक है, मतलब अगर हम थोड़ा थोड़ा करके ये बुक पढ़ ले, मतलब ऑलमोस्ट खत्म तो हो गई है. इसके बाद देखते हैं कौन सी बुक पढ़ेंगे. आप लोग सजेस्ट कर लेना. रूमी 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 में हम कहाँ पहुंचे? टेल मी वेयर वी आर. एक सेकंड में देख लूं जरा. चश्मा भी लगा लेना चाहिए. ड्रीम मस्ट बी इंटरप्रेटेड, ये हमने पढ़ लिया. पिक एक्स, ये भी हमने पढ़ लिया. जिक्र पढ़ लिया. कोर ऑफ मैस्कुलिनिटी, ये भी पढ़ लिया. दरवेश एट द डोर, ये भी पढ़ लिया. ओके. आर्ट एज flirtation with surrender, wanted new silk harp strings. ठीक। उमर एंड द ओल्ड पोएट ये भी पढ़ लिया। हम्म, देख रहा हूँ मैं। कल ये पढ़ लिया ना हमने। हाँ, ये पढ़ लिया हमने। ये पढ़ लिया था, एन इजिप्ट दैट डजंट एग्जिस्ट। ये भी पढ़ लिया था। चाइनीज एंड ग्रीक आर्ट, आई थिंक यही पढ़ना है। हाँ, यही पढ़ना है। Chinese art and Greek art. The prophet said, "There are some who see me by the same light in which I am seeing them. Our natures are one." Without reference to any strains of lineage, without reference to texts or traditions, we drink the life water together. Here's a story about the hidden mystery. The Chinese and the Greeks were arguing as to who were the better artists. The king said, "We will settle this matter with a debate." The Chinese began talking, but the Greeks wouldn't say anything. They left. The Chinese suggested that they each be given a room to work on with their artistry. Two rooms facing each other and divided by a curtain. The Chinese asked the king for 100 colors, all the variations, and each morning they came to where the dice were kept and took them all. The Greeks took no colors. They are not part of our work. They went on to their rooms and began cleaning and polishing the walls. All day, every day, they made the walls so pure and clear as an open sky. There's a way that leads from our all colors to colorlessness. Know that the magnificent variety of the clouds and the weather comes from the total simplicity of the sun and the moon. The Chinese finished. They were so happy. They beat the drums in the joy of completion. The king entered their room, astonished by the gorgeous color and detail. The Greeks then pulled the curtain dividing the room. The Chinese figures and images shimmeringly reflected on the clear Greek walls. They lived there even more beautifully, always changing in the light. The Greek art is the Sufi way. They don't study books of philosophical thought. They make their loving clearer and clearer. No wantings, no anger. In that purity, they receive and reflect the images of every moment from here, from the stars, from the void. They take them as in though they were seeing with the lighted clarity that sees them. In your light, I learn how to love. In your beauty, how to make poems. You dance inside my chest where no one sees you, but sometimes I do, and that sight becomes this art. Drum sound rises on the air. It's throb my heart. A voice inside the beat says, "I know you are tired, but come, this is the way." Are you jealous of the ocean's generosity? Why would you refuse to give this one to anyone, to this joy to anyone? Fish don't hold the sacred liquid in cups. They swim the huge fluid freedom. ये मैं फिर से पढ़ूंगा, गौर से सुनिएगा। Okay. Where were we? आवाज आ रही है मेरी? हेलो, माइक चेक 1 2। सो गए क्या आप लोग? कौन कौन है यहाँ पे? एनसी, सिनेमैन एंड आइना। Cinnamon is here. Okay, NC is also here. Ainan is also here. चल ठीक है, मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ। हाँ, इसको मैं रिपीट कर रहा हूँ। The Greek art is the Sufi way. They don't buy books and they don't study books or philosophical thoughts. They make their loving clearer and clearer. No wantings, no anger. In that purity, they receive and reflect the image of every moment. From here, from the stars, from the void. They take them in as though they were seeing with the lighted clarity that sees them. In your light, I learn how to love. ये बहुत फेमस लाइन है ये वाली। इसको बहुत जगह कॉपी किया गया है. In your light, I learn how to love. In your beauty, how to make poems. You dance inside my chest, where no one sees you, but sometimes I do. And that sight becomes this art. Drum sound rises on the air, it's throb my heart. A voice inside the beat says, I know you are tired, but come, this is the way. Are you jealous of the ocean's generosity? Why would you refuse to give this joy to anyone? Fish do not hold the sacred liquids in cup. They swim the huge fluid freedom. इसके बाद union, nets inside the world. Some nets come from the grass to speak with Solomon. O Solomon, you're the champion of the oppressed. You give justice to the little guys, and they don't get any little than us. We are tiny metaphors for frailty. Can you defend us? Solomon says, who has mistreated you? The nets from the grass say, our complaint is against the wind. Well, says Solomon, you have pretty voices, you nets, but remember, a judge cannot listen to just one side. I must hear both litigants. Of course, agree the nets. Summon the east wind, calls out Solomon, and the wind arrives almost immediately. What happened to the net plaintiffs? Gone. Such is the way of every seeker who comes to complain at the High Court. When the presence of the god arrives, where are the seekers? First, there is dying, then union, like nets inside the wind. Edo sounds. We have come again to that knee of sea coast no ocean can reach. Tie together all human intellects. They won't stretch to here. The sky bears its neck so beautifully, but gets no kiss, only a taste. This is the food that everyone wants, wandering the wilderness. Please give us your manna and quail. We are here again with the beloved. This air a shout, these meadow sounds an astonishing myth. We have come into the presence of the one who was never apart from us. When the water bag is filled, you know the water carriers here. The bag leans lovingly against your shoulders. Without you, I have no knowledge, no way to touch anyone. When someone chews sugarcane, he is wanting this sweetness. Inside this globe, the soul roars like thunder. Now silence. My strict tutor, I won't try to talk about Shamas. Language cannot touch that presence. Ayaz and the king's pearl. One day the king assembled his courtiers. He handed the minister a glowing pearl. What would you say this is worth? More gold than 100 donkeys could carry. Break it. Sir, how could I waste your resources like that? The king presented him with a robe of honor for his answer and took back the pearl. He talked a while to the assembly on various topics. Then he put the pearl in the chamberlain's hand. What would it sell for? Half a kingdom. God preserve it. Break it. My hand could not move to do such a thing. The king rewarded him with a robe of honor and an increase in his salary, and so it went with each one of the 50 or 60 courtiers. One by one, they imitated the minister, and the chamberlain received new wealth. Then the pearl was given to Ayaz. Can you say how splendid this is? It's more than I can say. Then break it, the second into any pieces. Ayaz had a dream about this, and he would hidden two stones in his sleeve and crush the pearl to powder them. Joseph at the bottom of the well listened to the end of his story, so listeners understand success and unsuccess as one thing. Don't worry about forms. It, if someone wants your horse, let him have it. Horses are for hurrying ahead of the others. The court assembly screamed at the recklessness of Ayaz. How could you do that? What the king is worth more than the pearl, I honor the king, not some colored stone. The princes immediately fell on their knees and put their foreheads on the ground. Their sigh went up like a smoke cloud asking forgiveness. The king gestured to his executioner as though to say, "Take out this trash." Ayaz sprang forward. "Your mercy makes them bow like this. Give them their lives. Let them keep hoping for union with you. They see their forgetfulness now as the drunken man did what when he said, 'I didn't know what I was doing,' and then someone pointed you. But you invited that forgetfulness into you. You drank it. There was a choice. They know deeply now how imitation lulled them to sleep. Don't separate yourself from them. Look at their heads against the floor. Raise their faces into yours. Let them wash in your cool washing place." Ayaz and his speech always get to this point, and then the pen breaks. How can a saucer contain the ocean? The drunks break their cups, but you pour that wine. Ayaz said, "You picked me to crush the pearl. Don't punish the others for my drunken obedience. Punish them when I am sober, because I will never be sober again. Whoever bows down like they are bowing down will not rise up in his old self again. Like a gnat in your buttermilk, they have become your buttermilk. The mountains are trembling, their maps and compass are the lines in your palms. Hussam, I need 100 mouths to say this, but I only have this one. 100,000 impressions from the spirit are wanting to come through here. I feel stunned in this abundance, crushed and dead. I think, um, वालेकुम अस्सलाम, जैनब, कैसी हो मेरी बहन? आप ठीक हो अच्छे से? Welcome to the stream. It's really nice to have you here. Put this design into your carpet. Spiritual experience is a modest woman who looks lovingly at only one man. It's a great river where ducks live happily and crows drown. The visible bowl of forms contain food that is both nourishing and a source of heartburn. There's an unseen presence we honor that gives the gifts. You were water, we are the millstone. You are the wind, we are the dust blown up into shapes. You are spirit, we are the opening and the closing of our hands. You are the clarity, we are this language that tries to say it. You are joy, we are all different kinds of laughing. Any moment or sound is a profession of faith, as the millstone grinding is explaining how it believes in the river. No metaphor can say this, but I can't stop pointing to the beauty. Every moment and place says, "Put this design in your carpet," like the shepherd in Book Second, who wanted to pick the lice off God's robe and stitch up God's shoes. I wanted to be in such a passionate adoration that my tent gets pitched against the sky. Let the blood come and sit like God dog in front of the tent. When the ocean surges, don't let me just hear it. Let it splash inside my mind, inside my chest. So this one is important. Ye wali. Hallaj. This refers to Mansoor. ठीक है? Mansoor al-Hallaj. Hallaj said what he said and went to the origin through the hole in the scaffold. I cut a cap's worth of cloth from his robe, and it swamped over me from head to foot. Years ago, I broke a bunch of roses from the top of his hill. A thorn from that is still in my palm, working deeper. From Hallaj, I learned to hunt lions, but I became something hungrier than a lion. I was a frisky colt. He broke me with a quiet hand on the side of my head. A person comes to him naked. It's cold. There's a fur coat floating in the river. "Jump in and get it," he says. You dive in, you reach for the coat, it reaches for you. It's a live bear that has fallen in the upstream, drifting with the current. How long does it take? Hallaj yells from the bank. "Don't wait," you answer. "This coat has decided to wear me home." A little part of the story, a hint. Do you need long sermons on Hallaj? Then comes the another poem, which is Vitri.
I love wonders the room's melodies, flute tones, flute notes, plucked wires, full of a wine the Maggie drank on the way to Bentham. We are three. The moon comes from its quiet corner, puts a pitcher of water down in the center, the circle of surface flames. One of us kneels to kiss the threshold. One drinks with wine flames playing over his face. One watches the gathering and says to any cold onlookers, this dance is the joy of existence. I am filled with you, skin, blood, brain, bone, and the soul. There's no room for lack of trust or trust. Nothing is this existence but this existence. This shake. I have such a teacher. Chickpea to cook. A chickpea leaps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. Why are you doing this to me? The cook knocks him down with the ladle. Don't you try to jump out. You think I'm torturing you. I am giving you flavor. So you can mix with spices and rice and be the lovely virality of a human being. Remember when you drank rain in the garden? That was for this. Grace first, sexual pleasure, then a boiling. New life begins, and the friend has something good to eat. Eventually, the chickpea will say to the cook, boil me some more, hit me with the skimming spoon. I can't do this myself. I am like an elephant that dreams of gardens back in Hindustan and doesn't pay attention to his driver. You're my cook, my driver. My way into existence. I love your cooking. The cook says, I was once like you, fresh from the ground. Then I boiled in time and boiled in the body. Two fierce, furious boilings. My animal soul grew powerful. I controlled it with practices and boiled some more and boiled once beyond that and became your teacher. I have such a teacher. Last night, my teacher taught me the lesson of poverty, having nothing and wanting nothing. I am a naked man and standing inside a mine of rubies, clothed in red silk. I absorb the shining, and now I see the ocean, billions of simultaneous motions moving in me, a circle of lovely, quiet people becoming the ring of on my finger. Then the wind and the thunder of rain on the way. I have such a teacher. Sublime generosity. I was dead, then alive, weeping, then laughing. The power of love came into me, and I became furious like a lion, the tender like the evening star. He said, you're not mad enough. You don't belong in this house. I went wild and had to tie it up. He said, still not wild enough to say with us. If you people who are the continuous listeners, if you do remember, previously we had actually read a poem of Rumi where he says, a person knocks at the door of his friend's house. He says, who is this? He says, it's me. Then he says, go away, roast yourself, burn yourself, then come again. फिर जो वापस आता है फिर से वो नॉक करता है then he says who is this, then the answer is it's you, not me. वो ये नहीं कहता it's me, वो कहता है it's you. फिर वो कहता है आ जाओ अंदर, क्योंकि उधर उसको कहता है तुम कच्चे हो अभी इस मकाम में नहीं आ सकते वगैरह वगैरह, वो तो फिर मीनिंग डिफरेंट डिफरेंट है, वो खुद ही समझना पड़ेगा आप लोगों को, अदरवाइज इट विल टेक अ लॉन्ग लॉन्ग टाइम. ही सेड यू आर नॉट मैड इनफ. ये थोड़ी बहुत रिलेटेबल है अगर आप सोचोगे. ही सेड यू आर नॉट मैड इनफ. You don't belong in this house. I went wild and had to be tied up, he said, still not wild, to stay with us. I broke another layer into joyfulness. He said, it's not enough. I died. He said, you are a clever little man, full of fantasy and doubting. I plucked out my feathers and became a fool. He said, now you are the candle for this assembly. But I am no candle. Look, I am scattered smoke. He said, you're the sheikh, the guidance. But I am not a teacher. I have no powder. He said, you already have wings. I cannot give you wings. But I wanted his wings. I felt like some flightless chicken. Then new event said to me, don't move. A sublime generosity is coming towards you. And old love said, stay with me. I said, I will. You're the fountain of the sun's light. I am a willow, shadow of the ground. You make my raggedness silky. The soul at dawn is like darkened water, and that slowly begins to say, thank you, Thank you. Then at sunset again, Venus gradually changed into the moon and then the whole night sky. This comes off smiling back at your smiles. The chess master says nothing other than moving the silent chess piece. That I am part of the ploys of this game makes me amazingly happy. Like this. If anyone asks you how the perfect satisfaction of all our sexual wanting will look, lift your face and say like this. When someone mentions the gracefulness of the night sky, climb on the roof and dance and say like this. If anyone wants to know what spirit is or what God's fragrance means, lean your head towards him or her. Keep your face then close like this. When someone quotes the old poetic image about clouds gradually uncovering the moon, slowly loosen knot by knot the strings of your robe like this. If anyone wonders how Jesus raises the dead, don't try to explain the miracle. Kiss me on the lips, like this, like this. When someone asks what it means to die for love, point here. If someone asks how tall I am, frown and measure with your fingers the space between the creases on your forehead. This tall. The soul sometimes leaves the body, then returns. When someone doesn't believe that, walk back into my house like this. When lovers mourn, they are telling our story like this. I'm a sky where spirits live. Steer into this deepening blue while the breeze says a secret like this. When someone asks what there is to do, light the candle in his hand like this. How did Joseph sent? How did Joseph sent come to Yaqub? Who? How did Yaqub's sight return? Who? A little wind cleans the eye. Like this. When Shams comes back from Tabriz, he will put just his head around the edge of the door to surprise us. Like this. I think that's more than enough. और कोई रिक्वेस्ट तो बता दीजिए. Otherwise, we'll end the stream right now. So I'm planning कि डेली लिसनर्स और बाकी सब लोगों को जिनको आना होगा, जिसको भी आना होगा, जूम में लाइव मीटिंग करके हम यहाँ लाइव स्ट्रीम पे आ जाएंगे. जॉन को पढ़ना है, कोई बात नहीं, पढ़ेंगे. तो जिसको आना होगा वो मुझे ट्विटर पे मैसेज कर देगा, फिर हम यहाँ आएंगे. बिकॉज वी आर क्लोजिंग ऑन 1K. सो एज टू सेलिब्रेट द मोमेंट हम जूम पे आएंगे, ठीक है. और सो वी हैव almost 18,000 views now, 992 subscribers, 89 videos. ठीक है, चले जॉन पढ़ते हैं. जॉन इलिया को पढ़ते हैं, या कोई और शायर. पहले कोई और शायर, फिर जॉन, फिर एंड करते हैं स्ट्रीम. जल्दी बता दीजिए. सो गए आप सब लोग. हाँ, कोई और शायर फिर जॉन, ठीक है. तो मैं देख रहा हूँ, ठीक है. थोड़ा सब्र कीजिए. हाँ, ये कलाम सुनिएगा. हमेशा देर कर देता हूँ मैं, हमेशा देर कर देता हूँ मैं हर काम करने में. जरूरी बात कहनी हो, कोई वादा निभाना हो, उसे आवाज देनी हो, उसे वापस बुलाना हो, हमेशा देर कर देता हूँ मैं. مدد کرنی ہو اس کی، یار کی دھارس بندھانا ہو، بہت دیرینہ رستوں پر کسی سے ملنے جانا ہو، ہمیشہ دیر کر دیتا ہوں میں، بدلتے موسموں کی سیر میں دل کو لگانا ہو، کسی کو یاد رکھنا ہو، کسی کو بھول جانا ہو، ہمیشہ دیر کر دیتا ہوں میں، کسی کو موت سے پہلے کسی غم سے بچانا ہو، حقیقت اور تھی کچھ اس کو جا کے یہ بتانا ہو، ہمیشہ دیر کر دیتا ہوں۔ اسی طرح غالب کا بھی پڑھیں گے، میں ذرا وعلیکم وعلیکم السلام مدثر، سچ میں ہمیشہ دیر کر دیتے ہیں آپ۔ یہ سنیے گا، یہ میں پہلی دفعہ پڑھ رہا ہوں، غلطی تو بظاہر ہو جائے گی اس میں۔ چشم نم جاں شوریدہ کافی نہیں، چشم نم جان شوریدہ کافی نہیں، تہمت عشق پوشیدہ کافی نہیں، آج بازار میں پابا جولاں چلو، آج بازار میں پابا جولاں چلو، دست افشاں چلو، مست و رقصاں چلو، خاک برسر چلو، خوں بدامن چلو، راہ تکتا ہے سب، شہر جانا چلو، حکیم شہر بھی، حکیم شہر بھی، مجمع عام بھی، تیر الزام بھی، سنگ دشنام بھی، صبح ناشاد بھی، روز ناکام بھی، ان قدم ساز اپنے سوا کون ہے، شہر جانا میں اب باصفا کون ہے، دست قاتل کے شیاں رہا کون ہے، رخت دل باندھ لو پھر، رخت دل باندھ لو، دل فگارو چلو، رخت دل باندھ لو، دل فگارو چلو، پھر ہمیں قتل ہو، ہائے یارو یارو چلو، چشم نم جہاں شوریدہ کافی نہیں، تہمت عشق پوشیدہ کافی نہیں۔ ایک فرمائش ہے، کسی کام میں بزی تھا، اوکے، فرمائیے فرمائیے۔ اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، پڑھیں گے، یہ بھی پڑھیں گے، بس میں تھوڑا ڈفرینٹ پڑھ رہا ہوں، ٹھیک ہے، تو اس کے بعد پڑھیں گے یہ بھی۔ انہوں نے غالب کے بارے میں کہا، غالب کا بھی پڑھیں گے۔ چلے غالب کا پڑھتے ہیں، یہ والا فرماتے ہیں کہ آہ کو چاہیے ایک عمر اثر ہوتے تک، آہ کو چاہیے ایک عمر اثر ہوتے تک، کون جیتا ہے تیری زلف کے سر ہوتے تک، دام ہر موج میں ہے حلقہ صد کام ناہنگ، دیکھیں کیا گزرے ہیں قطرے پہ غہر ہوتے تک، عاشقی صبر طلب اور تمنا بیتاب، عاشقی صبر طلب اور تمنا بیتاب، دل کا کیا رنگ کروں خون جگر ہوتے تک، تا قیامت شب فرقت میں گزر جائے گی عمر، تا قیامت شب فرقت میں گزر جائے گی عمر، 7 دن ہم پہ بھی باری ہے سحر ہوتے تک، ہم نے مانا کہ تغافل نہ کرو گے لیکن، ہم نے مانا کہ تغافل نہ کرو گے لیکن، خاک ہو جائیں گے، خاک ہو جائیں گے، خاک ہو جائیں گے ہم تم کو خبر ہوتے تک، پرتوے خرس ہے شبنم کو فنا کی تعلیم، میں بھی ہوں ایک عنایت کی نظر ہوتے تک، غم ہستی کا اسد کس سے ہو جز مرگ علاج، شمع ہر رنگ میں جلتی ہے سحر ہوتے تک، آہ کو چاہیے ایک عمر اثر ہوتے تک، کون جیتا ہے تیری زلف کے سر ہوتے تک۔ چلیے میں کچھ اور پڑھ لیتا ہوں، اس کے بعد اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں پڑھتا ہوں۔ یہ مجھے پرسنلی غالب کا یہ کلام بہت پسند ہے۔ ہر ایک بات پہ کہتے ہو تم کہ تو کیا ہے، ہر ایک بات پہ کہتے ہو تم کہ تو کیا ہے، تم ہی کہو کہ یہ انداز گفتگو کیا ہے، نہ شعلہ میں یہ کرشمہ نہ برق میں یہ ادا، کوئی بتاؤ کہ وہ شوق تند خو کیا ہے، چپک رہا ہے بدن پر لہو سے پیرہن، ہمارے جیب کو اب حاجت رفو کیا ہے، جلا ہے جسم جہاں دل بھی جل گیا ہوگا، جلا ہے جسم جہاں دل بھی جل گیا ہوگا، کوریدتے ہو جو اب راکھ جستجو کیا ہے، رگوں میں دوڑتے پھرنے کے ہم نہیں قائل، جب آنکھ ہی سے نہ ٹپکا تو پھر لہو کیا ہے، رہی نہ طاقت گفتار اور اگر ہو بھی تو کس امید پہ کہیے کہ آرزو کیا ہے، ہوا ہے شاہ کا مصاحب فرے ہے اتراتا، وگرنہ شہر میں غالب کی آبرو کیا ہے۔ اسی طرح فرماتے ہیں جون صاحب کہ اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، ایک تماشا لگتا ہوں، اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، ایک تماشا لگتا ہوں، آئینوں کو زنگ لگا اب میں کیسا لگتا ہوں، اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، ایک تماشا لگتا ہوں، آئینوں کو زنگ لگا اب میں کیسا لگتا ہوں، اب میں کوئی شخص نہیں اس کا سایہ لگتا ہوں، اب میں کوئی شخص نہیں اس کا سایہ لگتا ہوں، سارے رشتے تشنا ہیں، سارے رشتے تشنا ہیں، کیا میں دریا لگتا ہوں، اس سے گلے مل کر خود کو تنہا تنہا لگتا ہوں، خود کو میں سب آنکھوں میں دھندلا دھندلا لگتا ہوں، اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، ایک تماشا لگتا ہوں، آئینوں کو زنگ لگا اب میں کیسا لگتا ہوں، اب میں کوئی شخص نہیں اس کا سایہ لگتا ہوں، سارے رشتے تشنا ہیں، کیا میں دریا لگتا ہوں، کیا میں دریا لگتا ہوں، اس سے گلے مل کر خود کو تنہا تنہا لگتا ہوں، خود کو میں سب آنکھوں میں دھندلا دھندلا لگتا ہوں، میں ہر لمحہ اس گھر سے جانے والا لگتا ہوں، کیا ہوئے وہ سب لوگ کہ میں سونا سونا لگتا ہوں، مصلحت اس میں کیا ہے میری ٹوٹا پھوٹا لگتا ہوں، کیا تم کو اس حال میں بھی میں دنیا کا لگتا ہوں، کب کا روگی ہوں ویسے شہر مسیحا لگتا ہوں، میرا تالو تر کر دو سچ مچ پیاسا لگتا ہوں، مجھ سے کما لو کچھ پیسے زندہ مردہ لگتا ہوں، میں نے سہے ہیں مکر اپنے اب بیچارہ لگتا ہوں، اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، ایک تماشا لگتا ہوں، آئینوں کو زنگ لگا اب میں کیسا لگتا ہوں، اب میں کوئی شخص نہیں اس کا سایہ لگتا ہوں، سارے رشتے تشنا ہیں، کیا میں دریا لگتا ہوں، اس سے گلے مل کر خود کو تنہا تنہا لگتا ہوں، میں ہر لمحہ اس گھر سے جانے والا لگتا ہوں، جانے والا لگتا ہوں، اپنا خاکہ لگتا ہوں، ایک تماشا لگتا ہوں۔ فرماتے ہیں کہ ابھی ایک شور سا اٹھا ہے کہیں، کوئی خاموش ہو گیا ہے کہیں، ابھی ایک شور سا اٹھا ہے کہیں، کوئی خاموش ہو گیا ہے کہیں، ہے کچھ ایسا کہ جیسے یہ سب کچھ اس سے پہلے بھی ہو چکا ہے کہیں، تجھ کو کیا ہو گیا کہ چیزوں کو، تجھ کو کیا ہو گیا کہ چیزوں کو کہیں رکھتا ہے ڈھونڈتا ہے کہیں، جو یہاں سے کہیں نہ جاتا تھا، جو یہاں سے کہیں نہ جاتا تھا وہ یہاں سے چلا گیا ہے کہیں، آج شمشان کی سی بو ہے یہاں، کیا کوئی جسم جر رہا ہے کہیں، ہم کسی کے نہیں جہاں کے سوا، ایسی وہ خاص بات کیا ہے کہیں، تو مجھے ڈھونڈ میں تجھے ڈھونڈوں، تو مجھے ڈھونڈ میں تجھے ڈھونڈوں، کوئی ہم میں سے رہ گیا ہے کہیں، کتنی وحشت ہے درمیان ہجوم، کتنی وحشت ہے درمیان ہجوم، جس کو دیکھو گیا ہوا ہے کہیں، میں تو اب شہر میں کہیں بھی نہیں، میں تو اب شہر میں کہیں بھی نہیں، کیا میرا نام بھی لکھا ہے کہیں، اسی کمرے سے کوئی ہو کے ودا، اسی کمرے سے کوئی ہو کے ودا، اسی کمرے میں چھپ گیا ہے کہیں، مل کے ہر شخص سے ہوا محسوس، مل کے ہر شخص سے ہوا محسوس، مجھ سے یہ شخص مل چکا ہے کہیں، ابھی ایک شور سا اٹھا ہے کہیں، کوئی خاموش ہو گیا ہے کہیں۔ فرماتے ہیں کہ آخری بار آہ کر لی میں نے خود سے نباہ کر لی، آخری بار آہ کر لی میں نے خود سے نباہ کر لی، اپنے سر ایک بلا تو لینی تھی، اپنے سر ایک بلا تو لینی تھی، میں نے وہ زلف اپنے سر لے لی، دن بلا کس طرح گزارو گے، وصل کی شب بھی اب گزر لی ہے، جان نثاروں پہ وار کیا کرنا، جان نثاروں پہ وار کیا کرنا، میں نے بس ہاتھ میں سپر لی ہے، جو بھی مانگو ادھار دوں گا میں، اس گلی میں دکان کر لی ہے، میرا کشکول کب سے خالی تھا، میں نے اس میں شراب بھر لی ہے، اور تو کچھ نہیں کیا میں نے، اپنی حالت تباہ کر لی ہے، اور تو کچھ نہیں کیا میں نے، اپنی حالت تباہ کر لی ہے، شیخ آیا تھا محتسب کو لیے، میں نے بھی ان کی وہ خبر لی ہے۔ فرماتے ہیں کہ گھر سے ہم گھر تلک گئے ہوں گے، گھر سے ہم گھر تلک گئے ہوں گے، اپنے ہی آپ تک گئے ہوں گے، ہم جب ہم جو اب آدمی ہیں پہلے کبھی جام ہوں گے چھلک گئے ہوں گے، گھر سے ہم گھر تلک گئے ہوں گے، اپنے ہی آپ تک گئے ہوں گے، ہم جو اب آدمی ہیں پہلے کبھی جام ہوں گے چھلک گئے ہوں گے، وہ بھی اب ہم سے تھک گیا ہوگا، وہ بھی اب ہم سے تھک گیا ہوگا، ہم بھی اب اس سے تھک گئے ہوں گے، شب جو ہم سے ہوا معاف کرو، شب جو ہم سے ہوا معاف کرو، نہیں پی تھی بہک گئے ہوں گے، کتنے ہی لوگ حرص شہرت میں، کتنے ہی لوگ حرص شہرت میں دار پر خود لٹک گئے ہوں گے، شکر ہے شکر ہے اس نگاہ کام کا میاں، پہلے ہی ہم کھٹک گئے ہوں گے، ہم تو اپنی تلاش میں اکثر، ہم تو اپنی تلاش میں اکثر السما تک سمک گئے ہوں گے، اس کا لشکر جہاں تہاں یعنی اس کا لشکر جہاں تہاں یعنی ہم بھی بس بے کمک گئے ہوں گے، جان اللہ اور یہ عالم، جان اللہ اور یہ عالم بیچ میں ہم اٹک گئے ہوں گے. جان اللہ، اور یہ عالم بیچ میں ہم اٹک گئے ہوں گے. فرماتے ہیں کہ ہر دھڑکن ہے جانی تھی، ہر خاموشی طوفانی تھی. ہر دھڑکن ہے جانی تھی، ہر خاموشی طوفانی تھی. پھر بھی محبت صرف مسلسل ملنے کی آسانی تھی. جس دن اس سے بات ہوئی تھی اس دن بھی بے کیف تھا میں. جس دن اس سے بات ہوئی تھی اس دن بھی بے کیف تھا میں. جس دن اس کا خط آیا ہے اس دن بھی ویرانی تھی. ہر دھڑکن ہے جانی تھی، ہر خاموشی طوفانی تھی. پھر بھی محبت صرف مسلسل ملنے کی آسانی تھی. جس دن اس سے بات ہوئی تھی اس دن بھی بے کیف تھا میں. جس دن اس کا خط آیا اس دن بھی ویرانی تھی. جب اس نے مجھ سے یہ کہا تھا عشق رفاقت ہی تو نہیں. جب اس نے مجھ سے یہ کہا تھا عشق رفاقت ہی تو نہیں. آپ لوگوں کو لگ رہا ہوگا یہ بندہ جو جان ایلیا کی پوئٹری بڑے ہی انتھوزیاسٹکلی پڑھتا تھا، آج اس کو کیا ہو گیا. بیسیکلی میں تھک گیا ہوں تو اسی لیے جس طرح سے اس کو پڑھنا چاہیے ویسے پڑھ نہیں رہا. آئی ایم ریئلی سوری، مگر آئی ایم ٹرائنگ مائی بیسٹ. جب اس نے مجھ سے یہ کہا تھا عشق رفاقت ہی تو نہیں. جب اس نے مجھ سے یہ کہا تھا عشق رفاقت ہی تو نہیں، تب میں نے ہر شخص کی صورت مشکل سے پہچانی تھی. ہر دھڑکن ہے جانی تھی، ہر خاموشی طوفانی تھی. پھر بھی محبت صرف مسلسل ملنے کی آسانی تھی. جس دن اس سے بات ہوئی تھی اس دن بے کیف تھا میں. جس دن اس کا خط آیا تھا اس دن بھی ویرانی تھی. جب اس نے مجھ سے یہ کہا تھا عشق رفاقت ہی تو نہیں، تب میں نے ہر شخص کی صورت مشکل سے پہچانی تھی. جس دن وہ ملنے آئی جس دن وہ ملنے آئی ہے اس دن کی روداد یہ ہے. جس دن وہ ملنے آئی ہے اس دن کی روداد یہ ہے. اس کا ڈیش نارنجی تھا اور اس کی ساڑی دانی تھی. الجھن سی ہونے لگتی تھی مجھ کو اکثر، اور وہ یوں. میرا مزاج عشق تھا شہری اور اس کی وفا دہکانی تھی. دہکانی کھیت کو کہتے ہیں، اور کھیت جو ہوتے ہیں ولیج میں ہوتے ہیں. اب تو اس کے بارے میں تم جو چاہو وہ کہہ ڈالو. اب تو اس کے بارے میں تم جو چاہو وہ کہہ ڈالو. وہ انگڑائی میرے کمرے تک تو بڑی روحانی تھی. نام پہ ہم قربان تھے اس کے لیکن پھر یہ طور ہوا. نام پہ ہم قربان تھے اس کے لیکن پھر یہ طور ہوا. اس کو دیکھ کے رک جانا بھی سب سے بڑی قربانی تھی. نام پہ ہم قربان تھے اس کے لیکن پھر یہ طور ہوا. اس کو دیکھ کے رک جانا بھی سب سے بڑی قربانی تھی. مجھ سے بچھڑ کر بھی وہ لڑکی کتنی خوش خوش رہتی تھی. مجھ سے بچھڑ کر بھی وہ لڑکی کتنی خوش خوش رہتی تھی. اس لڑکی نے مجھ سے بچھڑ کر مر جانے کی ٹھانی تھی. نام پہ ہم قربان تھے اس کے لیکن پھر یہ طور ہوا. اس کو دیکھ کے رک جانا بھی سب سے بڑی قربانی تھی. مجھ سے بچھڑ کر بھی وہ لڑکی کتنی خوش خوش رہتی تھی. اس لڑکی نے مجھ سے بچھڑ کر مر جانے کی ٹھانی تھی. عشق کی حالت کچھ بھی نہیں تھی، بات بڑھانے کا فن تھا. عشق کی حالت کچھ بھی نہیں تھی، بات بڑھانے کا فن تھا. لمحے لافانی ٹھہرے تھے، قطروں کی تغیانی تھی. جس کو خود میں نے بھی اپنی روح کا عرفاں سمجھا تھا. جس کو خود میں نے بھی اپنی روح کا عرفاں سمجھا تھا. وہ تو شاید میرے پیاسے ہونٹوں کی شیطانی تھی. جس کو خود میں نے بھی اپنی روح کا عرفاں سمجھا تھا. وہ تو شاید میرے پیاسے ہونٹوں کی شیطانی تھی. تھا دربار کلاں بھی اس کا، نوبت خانہ اس کا تھا. تھی میرے دل کی جو رانی امرو ہی کی رانی تھی. تھی میرے دل کی جو رانی، امروہی کی رانی تھی، ہر دھڑکن ہے جانی تھی، ہر خاموشی طوفانی تھی، پھر بھی محبت صرف مسلسل ملنے کی آسانی تھی۔ اوکے اوکے، یہ شاید میں اینڈ کا پڑھ رہا ہوں، اس کے بعد میں I'll be ending the stream۔ میں شاید تم کو یکسر بھولنے والا ہوں، میں شاید تم کو یکسر بھولنے والا ہوں، شاید جانے جہاں شاید، کہ اب تم مجھ کو پہلے سے زیادہ یاد آتی ہے دل غمگین، بہت غمگین۔ میں شاید تم کو یکسر بھولنے والا ہوں، شاید جانے جہاں شاید، کہ اب تم مجھ کو پہلے سے زیادہ یاد آتی ہو، ہے دل غمگین بہت غمگین، کہ اب تم یاد دل دارانہ آتی ہو، شمی میں دور مندہ ہو، بہت رنجیدہ ہو مجھ سے، مگر پھر بھی مشام جہاں میں میرے آشتی مندانہ آتی ہو، جدائی میں بلا کا التفات محرمانہ ہے، قیامت کی خبر گیری ہے، بہت ناز برداری کا عالم ہے، تمہارے رنگ تمہارے رنگ تمہارے رنگ مجھ میں اور گہرے ہوتے جاتے ہیں، تمہارے رنگ مجھ میں اور گہرے ہوتے جاتے ہیں، میں ڈرتا ہوں میرے احساس کے اس خواب کا انجام کیا ہوگا، یہ میرے اندرون ذات کا تراج کر جذبوں کے بیری وقت کی سازش نہ ہو کوئی، تمہارے اس طرح ہر لمحہ یاد آنے سے دل سہما ہوا سا ہے، تو پھر تم کم ہی یاد آؤ، متاع دل متاع جاں، تو پھر تم کم ہی یاد آؤ، بہت کچھ بہہ گیا ہے سیل ماہ و سال میں اب تک، سبھی کچھ تو نہ بہہ جائے، دل سہما ہوا سا ہے، تو پھر تم کم ہی یاد آؤ، متاع دل متاع جاں، تو پھر تم کم ہی یاد آؤ، بہت کچھ بہہ گیا ہے سیل ماہ و سال میں اب تک، سبھی کچھ تو نہ بہہ جائے، کہ میرے پاس رہ بھی کیا گیا ہے، کچھ تو رہ جائے، میں شاید تم کو یکسر بھولنے والا۔ ایکچولی میں بہت تھک گیا ہوں، تو جس طرح کلام پڑھنا چاہیے اس طرح نہیں پڑھ رہا تھا، آئی ایم ریئلی سوری فار دیٹ، لیکن کیا کریں، تھکاوٹ ہے، آفٹر آل آئی ایم اے ہیومن بینگ۔ چلیے کل ملتے ہیں، کل شاید اس بک کو ٹاٹا بائی بائی کر لیں، ٹھیک ہے، پھر پرسوں زوم میٹنگ کریں گے، مجھے لگتا ہے کل ہمارا 1 کے ہو جائے گا، اگر کل 1 کے ہو گیا ان کیس تو کل ہی زوم میٹنگ کریں گے، ٹھیک ہے، مزے سے سیلیبریٹ کریں، پرہیپس میں کسی ایک انڈیویجول ہے میرے ذہن میں، اس کا انٹرویو لوں، لائک پوڈ کاسٹ، یہاں پہ بیٹھ کے گپے لڑائیں گے اور دیکھتے ہیں اور ساتھ کیا کریں گے۔ ٹیک کیئر ایوری ون، ہاں ضرور میں ٹائم بتا دوں گا، I'll text you، ٹیک کیئر ایوری ون۔